I was never content.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't care how much money I made, how much status I had, how many friends I had. I'd have these gigantic birthday parties with like a gazillion people there. It didn't matter. It was never enough. I had to have more and more and more because I was never in the moment.
Yeah.
I just wanted the most. You know, I felt like I deserved the most.
Yeah.
And there's just that expectation, right? You know, so that's what caused me to be a chameleon, because it was like, I hate to say it, but like I was blending in to get further ahead.
What's up, EL2A family, man? Come invest in the futures that are gonna change the world. What you see here right now, man, we are reimagining education, right? We are giving these young boys and showing them who they are and where they're going. We're creating a school-to-career pipeline, and it's happening right here on this property, man. So let's go, EL2A fam. We're gonna have a QR code that pops up. You scan that code, all right? And it's gonna take you and tell you everything you need to know to come help us invest in the futures that's gonna change the world. Let's go. Welcome world, welcome family to another episode of the EL2A Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Gilmore Jr. And to the right of me, we got a very, very special guest. Some of you may know him as the person that's in zone, getting everybody fit as the trainer. Some of you know me, may sold your house as the real estate agent. Some of you just may know him as the good guy, Mr. Kendrick Butler. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you for being here. So a lot of people already know you. So I know we may be reintroducing you to the world today, or introducing you to others. But one thing that I love about this episode is being able to connect and learn more about people's journey. So I appreciate you for coming up here and just sharing your story with us today, man.
Yeah, of course, man.
All right, so I do want to ask you this before we get started. Here at Cut Different, we do something we always ask from 1 to 10, how you feeling, right?
Sure.
1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And this is just to gauge and get a perspective of your mental mood, mindset of where you're at currently. 1 to 10, how you feeling?
You know, transparently, I'm a 7. I like it.
7. So why 7?
I think, you know, today in particular, all the things that I have going on, you know, training my people. I got like 4 or 5 homes under contract, picking my daughter up from school, taking her to activities. It's like I'm already thinking too far ahead, and I'm trying to, and I still have, as much as I don't want to be like this, I still have this mindset of like, I got to have my schedule locked in. So I have a little anxiety when I'm a little bit off, but I've just learned to just like let it be. Yeah. You know, it'll work out. But I'm a 7.
I love it.
Yeah.
7. And some of the things in there, those are good problems to have.
They are
good
problems to have.
But I like it. But before I get too far, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. All right. So I already know there's gonna be Ocala's gonna be watching this episode. But I want you to know, every time you tap into the EL2A podcast, we're gonna give you information to be able to send you further, give you guidance, attention, motivation, education, be able to help you to further yourself, to educate yourself. This isn't a platform you come on to be entertained. This one you come on to learn. So to get into your story though, Kendrick, it was funny. So I knew we were doing this, right? And I was in the gym and I was lifting, and I see you in there. Obviously you're always training, so you got a busy training schedule as well. But as I was lifting, I looked up and I seen you on the TV ad with your ad as a real estate agent up on the ad. So I said, check this out. It's pretty cool to be here training people. Always have the ad on the thing, so you can become a bigger than life figure in a sense. So sometimes when you're looking at things like that. But so for the people that see you in that light, they come in and they see you training, right? They look up, they see his real estate. It's like, man, this guy got it going on. Yeah, man, he's perfect. Yeah. I wish I was like Kendrick, but they don't understand the backstory, man. That leads up to the spot. Let's backtrack. Let's go back and give it what makes Kendrick who he is today.
Sure. You know, I think what it starts with is like the foundation of my parents. You know, I had a great, you know, childhood. You know, my parents divorced when I was about 10 years old, but they loved me and gave me, you know, they cared about my activities and what I was doing. And I used to spend like summers and holidays with my dad, and I really loved it. And I got some great, you know, brothers and sisters out of it too as well. I have 2 stepsisters, and not stepsisters, 2 half sisters and 1 half brother. And they're very close to me because I watched them grow up. They're a lot younger than me. So I think that's what makes, my parents had me when they were seniors in high school. But what I really admire about them is that they never stopped doing what they're doing. They kind of they became a team in a way. All right. They graduated high school. My dad went to college and he was a great basketball player. We're originally from Tallahassee, Florida. He was a great basketball player, and he got a basketball scholarship to the University of Minnesota, and he put that aside, and took an academic scholarship to Florida A&M University, Florida A&M University, FAMU Rattlers, and he just fast-tracked his way through college. He worked. He really came from nothing, honestly, and he knew that he had a little boy on the way, had, a soon-to-be wife to really support, so he fast-tracked his way through college. And then my mom, once my dad started working, she went to college. So, I had these really hard-working parents who had these big dreams and big aspirations, and that's kind of what makes me me, and then along the way, I've just been fortunate enough to really be around some great mentors that have guided me and given me really good constructive criticism on how I can be better.
Yeah, I like it. I want to go back to the front part. So obviously, the work that we do at Cut Different, we work with youth, and so anytime I hear anything about growing up in a household, maybe split or anything with childhood stuff, my antennas stick up. So you say you grew up in a split home, so your mom and father. So going back to that time, how did that affect you as a child, being senior, not having your both parents in the same household? How did that affect you?
It hurt initially, but if I put two and two together, it was the best thing for them. They were going in different directions. And I think what really hurt me most about it was that I was leaving Tallahassee. So when my parents got a divorce, my mom and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And even then, we didn't even have it all ready. We stayed with my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin Ray until we got ourselves in a position. I switched schools a couple of times in that process. And, I think every boy, who actually has a relationship with their father, they yearn for sure, for that attention. They yearn to be like their dad in a way, So I really, as a youth, not so much as an adult, but as a youth, I really wanted him to be proud of me, and I wanted him to acknowledge me. And not that he didn't, but that was definitely a motivation for me. So it hurt in the beginning, but as I got older, I realized that they did the best that they could, while they were together.
Yeah, when they were split, did you still have that relationship with your dad? Were you still maybe going to see him, talking to him? You still had a relationship?
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. One thing I say about me, going to the other part of your what you said, you spoke about mentorship. I always speak about. So I grew up in a teenage parents, so similar as you. My parents had me when in high school as well, but and I always had my dad in my life. I lived in a 2-parent household, but even with that, I still had mentorship. Even from each phase of my life, there always was a person to be there to add on. And I always say I didn't need it because I had my dad. I just feel like God added on to me. And you mentioned mentorship, and I obviously Cut Different again.
Yes.
Mentorship is key. I believe in the power of mentorship. You brought it up, so I understand mentorship did something for you as well. So when you speak about mentors, talk about some of the people who came in and exposed you to some knowledge that you didn't know, or helped you along the way through mentorship.
Oh man, I can name them all, because and they were all just very purpose-driven young men, So when I was in high school, one of my favorite teachers was this guy named Mr. Lacey, Jeff Lacey to be exact, and he was my world history teacher. Yeah. And he started this group called Men and Women of Distinction. And it was a new club. And I was really, in high school, I was a really active person. I played sports. I was in 1,000 clubs, president of a bunch of clubs, because again, I had that yearn. I was like, I want to be the best. I really did. And he thought of me, and he kind of took me under his wing, exposed me to new books, giving back to the community. That's something I wasn't really putting time and effort into. So, new music. Yeah, music I'd never even heard of. And then when I got to college, it was like my boss at my job. My mom got me a job at IBM, and there was an older gentleman there named Brandon who really took me under his wing, and he just taught me a lot about just like being an adult, because I still had like a young mindset.
Yeah.
And then when I moved down here to Ocala, I mean, obviously Ben Marciano, Ben really poured a lot into me. When I was up, when I was down, he definitely poured a lot into me. He shot it straight to me.
Yeah.
And I learned through him how to take constructive criticism, because before then in my life, it was like you couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
So those are really, and now, as like a 37-year-old man, probably one of the biggest influences is my sponsor. I don't want to say his name or whatever, but he is just, he has it all going for him, and he has it all going for him mentally.
Yeah.
He just has a good head on his shoulders, and he kind of pulls me back in and brings me back to life, you know?
I like that. So you said a sponsor. So I know that may take somebody by surprise watching this. So what is a sponsor?
So a sponsor is, it could be anything, but in my case, a sponsor would be somebody that is coaching you through recovery. I had some downfalls where alcohol and substances became like a part of my life, and I needed help. I needed like a village.
Yeah.
And he was part of that village.
Yeah.
And he was somebody that had a lot of years and a lot of wisdom and a lot of sobriety under his belt. And he took me through the steps, and he just coached me. And even when I was still like mentally sick, I might have been doing great, not drinking and things of that nature, he always would let me know, like, that's not the way you want to think. Don't assume. So he took that assumption mindset out of me, and in that, it's given me a lot more peace. I feel like I'm happier, more calm now than I've ever been.
Yeah, and I think we can dive a little deeper here. So, because both of these are a lot, I want to stop. So, So let's dig deep. So, at one point you mentioned Ben, right?
Yeah.
And you said you had ego, and he shot it to you straight. And then after Ben, you mentioned a sponsor.
Yeah.
Which a person that's helped you after, like, everything went bad, basically.
Correct.
So if I'm just using my the smart side of my brain, I feel as if that ego that Ben maybe was trying to check led you to some things that maybe this person had to come in and try to help you out with.
100%.
So ego is dangerous.
It is.
It can kill you. So talk to me a little about this. Where were you at? What mindset? What led you into? Because you just said alcoholism, different things. Let's talk. How do we get there? How do we get there to need a sponsor?
Sure. Again, and we talk about this in the rooms of AA. When you tell your story, what's crazy is when somebody in the program tells their story, we kind of all have in a way, no matter what your background is, you kind of all have the same belief and same personality. And I'll say that, like, as much as I worked hard and I had this great life, I always had this desire to be liked.
Good.
I had to be liked. I had to be perfect. And in a way, I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. So I became a chameleon.
Yeah.
And because if I became a chameleon, then everybody would like me, right?
For sure.
I could be, nobody will say anything bad about me. But in that, with years and years and years of just playing a character and never really like growing as a person internally, what came from that was like a facade.
Yeah.
Like I'm living a lie. So I think the stress of that kind of led me down that way. So it really, just to even kind of sum it all up, it really started when I moved jobs. I left Zone and went to Orange Theory Fitness. And at the time I was married, my wife was pregnant, and I was in night school with real estate. And I had all this stress, and I had to hold it together, right? Be the man of the house and manage a facility, a new job, also make sure I passed this test because I told everybody I was in real estate school. So it's that pressure of being perfect, and it just started with, one glass a night.
Yeah.
Nothing simple, nothing bad, take the edge off, then it became 2 glasses a night, and 3 and 4. Now it gets to the point where I'm hiding it.
For sure.
And again, living that lie. So that kind of just all compounded into, overnight alcoholism. It really, really did. And the hiding of the alcoholism. And I kind of drifted further away from the person that people knew me to be. You know, if anything, I knew this about me, and you can ask anybody 5, 6, 7 years ago, 3, 4 years ago too as well. I was consistent, you know, because again, I wanted to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
So like I was gonna be on time. I was gonna, you know, always do everything that I said I was gonna do. I was gonna show up. I was gonna be as consistent as they come. I prepped all my food. I worked out every day. And that just kind of wore on me. And it became noticeable when all those things, you know, those commitments, they started wavering.
Yeah.
I stopped answering the phone.
Yeah.
And then my marriage went downhill, you know? So at that point, once I moved out, I was like, where's the accountability? And that's how I got there.
So was the drinking a part of you trying to remove yourself from the date? Like you're trying to say, I just want to not feel that, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to dismiss myself from what I'm actually seeing. Was you just trying to run away from your, I guess, responsibilities, for lack of better words?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the responsibilities. I was trying to run away. Like I was trying to forget the stress that I was what I was having. Yeah. And that's kind of how it started. You know, like drinking. Like drinking is what they say in the rooms. Was the solution, the result. Yeah. Right. The real problem was that I honestly, the stress of all those things that I told you, you know, years and years and years of being somebody that I wasn't, trying to play a character, be a chameleon, be a good husband, be a good future dad, have these 2 jobs, wake up early, come home late, cook my food or whatever. It just collapsed on me. And to me, that was a way of relief.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. So think about this, even to think about what you said about the chameleon thing. You say you were a chameleon, you were trying to fit in. Once I think back to my story, so being an athlete all my life, it hurt me, but it also gave me purpose. And you get what I'm saying? So as an athlete, there's certain things you can do and don't do. Again, you're an athlete, you want to take care of everybody, you don't smoke, you don't drink. You know what I mean? Or you shouldn't. You're an athlete, you do certain things. You get on your workout, you treat yourself a certain way. And it also gets you a stature or a standard in the world. People affirm you. Oh, he's a football player. You know what I mean? So it kind of puts you on a pedestal. When you see someone who's a chameleon, it's like they're trying to find what's that for me. Like, who am I in this world? Like, what is it? My claim to fame. Do you feel as if going through your childhood or just as you're to this part of your life, you didn't have that claim to fame, or you didn't have something to say, this is me, that I don't have to try to go over there and fit in?
Yeah, you know, and I think, and even as I got older and I started achieving more and more, you know, and friends and family used to say this about me all the time, is that like, I was never content.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't care how much money I made, how much status I had, how many friends I had. I'd had these gigantic birthday parties with like a gazillion people there. It didn't matter. It was never enough. I had to have more and more and more because I was never in the moment.
Yeah.
I just wanted the most. Yeah. You know, I actually felt like I deserved the most.
Yeah.
And it was just that expectation, right? You know, so that's what caused me to be a chameleon, because it was like, I hate to say it, but like I was blending in to get further ahead.
Blending in to get further ahead.
Yes.
Blending in to get further ahead. Talk to me. Break that down for me.
Sure. You know, so like, you know, I just played the long game, you know, and that was in my old ways. You know, I played the long game. So I would put myself in a position around important people, and be the person they needed and wanted me to be, because I knew that it was important to have those important people in my life, because at some point I would need them.
Wow.
You know, and so like, it was just like every relationship, every job, everything that I did, it had a game. It had an end game to it, right? You know?
That's so even with that mindset of doing, because there's a lot of people that do stuff like that. To this day, there's a lot of people, we call them A kissers. Butt kissers. Sure. You know what I mean? So those type of people that are doing things like that, where did that mindset, where did that end you up? Are you saying that ended you up in the situation you were, but did that get you what you think it would?
It didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't. I never, I was never happy, you know? I was never, I mean, I probably was as in certain points there, you know, that when I actually sat down and thought about it, I was, but I know happiness now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a different type of life. And it didn't really get me anything. All it did was give me more stress.
For sure.
Yeah, it was just more stress, more sleepless nights, you know, more of not being grateful for the things that I had.
Yeah.
You know, and another too, like, you know, comparison's a thief of joy.
Thief of joy.
I know it's a famous quote, but it's real talk. It's true, you know, like, and I was just always comparing myself, like, how do I get there? How do I get that house? How do I get that car? How do I get that watch? You know, how do I, you know, maybe I can do this one day. Well, how do I get there one day without having all these things? I need to meet that person, you know, and it was just a full-time job too. Yeah, I get it.
A lot of people associate discipline with like the grind. You have to be disciplined to reach goals and base. But it takes a lot of discipline to also get over things on the back end. So when you talk about alcoholism, you had to be disciplined to let go of what you were dealing with. So let's talk about that a little bit. How were you able to get to a point to where you submitted to what you were going through, seek help, and also get through that?
Yeah. And they call it the first step, right? Because the first step is admitting that you actually have a problem.
Right.
And I think that, so the first 3 steps are really important, but the first step is admitting that you have a problem. That will get you further ahead. And I still, even up until the day, and a lot of people don't know this about me, but even up until the day, I went to treatment. I went to a 30-day treatment facility because Ben knew I was struggling.
Yeah.
And he came and he took me, you know, and I was in real bad shape, you know, and I didn't want to go because I had not admitted that I had a problem.
Yeah.
I kept thinking about all these other things, and I checked myself out the next day because I was like, I don't want to be here. Like, the food's terrible. It's cold up in here. I don't want to be here. But in that, just those few hours out, it was like kind of like they call it a spiritual awakening. I had a spiritual awakening right there, and that's when I knew, like, you know, that's when I knew that I think I do have a problem because all that support that I had, it was gone. Yeah. You know, and then lastly, you have to believe in a power greater than yourself. Yeah. That's what really helped me. So my whole life, in a way, the way that I was living my life and the characteristics that I had, I was playing God. You know, like, if it didn't go my way, then I would be disappointed. And I pretty much maneuvered my way around so that things would go my way because I was playing God. And what I did, I had to learn how to just sit back and let God do his thing. Yeah. And when I did that, that's when I was like, I really want to do this. I was fortunate enough that I had my daughter, who's 4 years old now. I was fortunate enough that she was like 6 months. And I was like, I told myself, I was like, you know, if I get it right, she'll never know this. Yeah. Of course, I'll tell her at some point, but she'll never see that version of me. Yeah. She'll only know her father to be healthy, you know, doting of her and things of that nature. So that was my motivation, and I didn't stop. Once I got out and I learned, like, the keys, like, go to a meeting every day, get back to working out, surround yourself with people that are doing the right things, remove people, places, and things from your life. I just did it every day. I mean, I really did it every day, you know, and I had a lot of motivation because I wanted to be better for my daughter. I want to be better for myself. Yeah.
So one thing, there's some things you just can't speed by. Yeah. And when you say I was playing God, you get what I'm saying? Because I feel you wholeheartedly what you say when you say that, but there's somebody that's watching this is going to hear that you saying you was playing God, and they may be dealing with that same thing right now. So can you kind of slow it down? And when you say I was playing God, what does that look like? Like, what was Kendrick doing in that time when was he trying to control the world? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, I was trying to control the world. Yeah. You know, I was trying to manipulate I was trying to manipulate the people around me. And, you know, Ben said this, you know, and it's another one of my favorite quotes outside of comparisons to Thief of Joy. He said, expectation just leads to premeditated resentment. And I used to think about that all the time. Like, I resented a lot of people. Like, people were living rent-free in my head all the time. They were, because they didn't do things in the manner in which I wanted them to do it. They didn't follow along with what I wanted them to follow along with, and it led me to be just disappointed on a regular basis. And I realized and that's because I wanted them just to follow me.
Yeah.
But once I realized I believed in the power greater than myself, and I really started like believing in God instead of just going to church.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Because that's what we're supposed to do, because we're in the South and stuff like that. I started believing in God and started having faith that it is what it is and it's going to be what it's going to be. And that kind of gave me the peace that I needed. And, and we talked about this earlier too. Like, I love that quote too, of this too shall pass, because that is in good times and in bad times. That gave me the peace that I needed right there too. Like, I believed in God. I really, truly believed in God. I had faith that it was going to work out. And I knew that I knew that all the good things that happened in my life, they're not going to be good forever. Yeah. And all the bad things that happen in my life, it's not going to be bad forever. Yeah. So like, I can only control what I can control. And that is my reaction. Yeah. My attitude towards things. Yeah. That's what I can control.
I love it. Thinking about entitlement, because that's what I hear when you say you get to that point. How does a person build up that level of entitlement? Like, what about Kendrick allowed him to believe like someone owed him the things you thought you were being owed in that situation, when you say you were expecting this and that to happen? Like, what allows you to believe that?
I was, and this is no knock whatsoever. So like, I'm sure at some point my parents may listen to this or whatever, but like, I was spoiled a little bit. Okay. I mean, like, I was spoiled a little bit. Like, for the longest time, I was the only child. I was the only grandson. I was like, my teachers loved me. I got preferential treatment. My stepdad used to always say to me, he was like, "You're the luckiest person ever." Yeah. Like, and I just felt like I would get out of everything. I would get special treatment. And that just led me to believe that, like, I guess I'm supposed to have this. Yeah. This is supposed to be my life. And I was sadly mistaken. Yeah, I can tell you that. Yeah. So that's how I got there.
That's that light skin, brother. Light skin. Yeah. But true. To think about. Okay, so now you're at a point. Just if we're on a process of taking it step by step, you hit the rock bottom part, right? You get a person like Ben, you get the sponsor, you get these people that are getting you in the shift of your life. At this time, you do have your daughter, right? Yeah. So like you said, that's your source of motivation. Who I am, if I can get it right, she would never know this. Okay, so you say that, right? A lot of people say things. People make New Year's resolutions. You work in the fitness. You know exactly about this. All right, so people say a lot of things. So what started, so we can get to the other side of this thing, from that point, what allowed you to get to who we are now? What, because again, you could say it. Yes, everybody wants better for their children. Everybody wants better for themselves, but the doing is the hard part. Yeah. So how do we get to the doing?
Man, that is like, I'm so glad you said that, because we talk about that at the gym. We do a lot of, I personally do a lot of sales training, and like with the sales training, it's about finding the why. I know that's why I've been able to achieve that. But it's finding the why. And we always tell people, like, or tell the trainers that just because someone says like they want to look better, or they want to feel better, or they want to lose this weight or whatever, that's not a real why. It's not, that's not a real why, because many people, or even doing it for your children is not a real why, because many people have been put in a position to do better for their children and they didn't. Yeah. So, because they never figured out what their real why was. Why do you want to do better for your children? And I got that why when I was in treatment. We were sitting down, it was a bunch of us, like 20 or 25 of us in the treatment center. We were sitting with one of the therapists, and she had us write a letter to the person that you're doing, that you're getting sober for, So I wrote like this imaginary letter to my daughter, how much I loved her, all these things that I wanted to be for her and so forth. And I folded it up, and we didn't have to read through it, but she had us go through and tell, like, who is your letter about, and so forth. And she summed it all up, was that that's not the reason, that's not your real why. The most important person in your life, in a way, selfishly, is yourself. Sure. Because if I don't stay clean and sober, then I can never be a good father. You know, I can never be a good son. I can never be a good employee. And I saw that, you know, like I saw those things, you know. So in order for me to get to a position where I can be a good father, I had to realize that, like, that's really what my why is. I want to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And the best version of myself is free of those substances, you know? So that's why. That's my real why.
Yeah, and I love it. And so it's making me think about it as you're talking. I can see as a gentleman. So in the facility that we're in, the AA group meets here every during lunchtime they meet. And so I interact with a lot of them. And there's one gentleman, older gentleman, I won't say his name, but he comes in and sits in my office. And I don't want to lie, but he has to be like 60, pushing 70. He's a pretty old gentleman. But he talks about his childhood. He talks about his struggle with addiction, with gambling, and all these different things. And that's what he talks about. He talks about because he relapsed a bunch of times. He was like, I get clean, I just go back. I get clean, I get back. But he was like, I never had a why. I never had like that thing that was like a burning desire more than the alcohol and then those different things. So he was always relapse and go back to it. So to talk about that power, why even, and that just made me think, but even about thinking about what we do today at Cut Different with kids. And when you think about a person that, especially as a child, an innocent child that only can see the negativity that they may be in the environment that they're in, it's like, what's going to allow this person to understand, okay, this is your circumstance now, but there's greater later. Everything we've been saying, you know what I mean? It's the why. It's more to your story, and the why is an important thing. So, so you're here now, right, brother?
Yeah.
How do we get to fitness? How do we get to real estate? How do those things transpire? Because obviously, you were doing that already.
Yeah.
You were in the process of doing that. So, what inspired to keep? Because you obviously, even going into those professions, you had to push to be. Because you got a book schedule. You know what I mean? We just talked about. You got 4 contracts and all these things that you're. You know what I mean? How do we get to the height of excelling in these?
Absolutely. I think, again, it's just how I got there. Honestly, I mean, just to talk about what we've been talking about mainly is like it's staying sober.
Yeah.
You know, like I would have never been able to be as consistent as I am, and I still fail, you know, but as consistently as I am right now, without that first and foremost. And then 2, I think is just I love training. I love training. I love being a real estate agent because if you think about it, they're both in the serving industry. And I love to serve people. You know, I love to make people feel good. I love to help people find homes. I know people love to list homes, and I do like to list homes too, whatever. But I really like helping buyers. I do, because like there's it's a little bit more work, but there's like, what's the way to say it? There's like beauty in that, you know, like in giving somebody the ability to see something that they never thought they would be able to do.
Yeah.
I like being a part of that process. So just because I've experienced it so many times, that's my motivation, you know, and I know that I can do both.
Yeah.
You know, I can do both. I don't know for how long, you know, but I can definitely do both. And my motivation really is just my daughter. You know, she's got a lot of activities, man. You know,
it ain't cheap.
It's not cheap or whatever. And I love, you know, doing those things. It makes me feel good. It's service work. And what I've learned in the rooms of AA is that like serving others is like one of the easiest ways, the most consistent and straightforward ways to really stay free and like clean, you know, stuff like that. So that's what keeps me focused.
Yeah, forgiveness is coming to mind, brother. So once we go through things in life, there's some things in my life that I've experienced that this Jamie that sits before you today is not the Jamie. Like, this is an all-time high accountability. Like, things happen, and I always find out, where did I go wrong? You know what I mean? I understand wholeheartedly that I can't control anyone else. I can control myself. That wasn't always the case. So when I think about you and what I'm hearing you say, your divorce, the alcoholism, all these different things, have you forgave yourself for all these experiences in life you experienced?
I'm still working on that. You know, I think I get further and further and further ahead. I think that's a longer journey. I think, like you said, those experiences have taught me to always be like, when things don't go my way, or things, I don't want to say my way, but when things do go wrong, I always like to think about the part that I played in that. you know, so I know that I had a part to play in all those things, like, you know, just my divorce and other jobs that I've had, not being at my best, you know, of course, drinking and things of that nature. So I think every day I get closer and closer to that. I know for a fact I've forgiven myself as, you know, as a father and a son, you know, and a worker too, because like towards the end, I wasn't consistent at work, you know, so we make amends.
Yeah.
And the thing about amends is that like you reach out to those people without the expectation that they're going to respond positively or negative or at all.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes a lot of that weight off your shoulders. So I'm still in the process of making my amends.
Yeah.
You know,
I like it. Purpose. Purpose. If you ask me today, if you were like, Jamie, what's your purpose? I truly believe my purpose is to guide people to own their greatness through motivation, through just bringing people in an environment, showing everybody that God created them to be great. When I hear your story, I kind of hear survival mode, like in the beginning. You're like in this survival, like I'm chameleon, I'm trying to make it. I'm doing anything I can do to make it. That's kind of a survival type of. Now I hear a purpose-driven man. If I was to ask you, what is your purpose? What would you say in your words? What do you think your
That's a good question. You know, I think my purpose is just to make impact.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't matter. In the past, it used to, you know, be about having the biggest impact. But I think my purpose is to make impact and to leave a legacy of just, you know, health, you know, and consistency. You know what? I think my purpose, now that I think about it, I'm sorry, not because this is like a tough question.
For sure.
You know, I don't think I've really dove deep into it. I think my purpose is to be remembered for being a good father, you know, being a good son.
Yeah.
And just being, I don't know, man, the best worker I can be, you know. And I, like I said, I love doing what I do. I consider myself a really good personal trainer. And I think every trainer thinks that they're the best personal trainer. But the way that I have purpose in my work and how I like to serve others, I feel like doing that job gives me purpose, you know, in a way. So I don't know, it's a tough question. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really even have a full answer for it. I might have to get back to you.
Yeah, and that's good. And I challenge you to figure that out, because there's power in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously your purpose and your why aligns. They're similar. They're almost the same thing. Well, not the same. You get what I'm saying. But they align to each other. And when you know your purpose. So, for example, there are certain things naturally that I'm not. For example, we talked about the Run Club. Shout out to the Run Club. Ocala, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 5 a.m. downtown Square. But I'm naturally not what's the word? Outgoing person. What is the I'm an introvert.
Yeah, you're an introvert.
Naturally. I'm not the person to be out and doing all. I would rather be in my shell. Who I am online, somebody may see that and think I'm opposite. That's not who I am. But my purpose drives me to do that. My purpose, it's bigger than me. You get what I'm saying? So when I lock into my purpose, I put myself aside. Jamie goes this way. What allows me to guide young men to own their greatness and guide people to own their greatness? That governs my decisions, not Jamie. You get what I'm saying? So I put myself aside because I'm so in tune and so tapped into my purpose. And when you know that about your purpose, you the same thing. Like your decisions are guided differently through the purpose. You know what I mean? I'm a purpose-driven man, and everything I do is to guide young men or guide people to own their greatness. So for yourself, you know what I mean? You got to tap into that purpose part of you.
I will.
That'll be big. And and this is selfishly, and for the viewers, because I care about our viewers, you work in a gym, you work into a space where people come and they want change, they want transformation. What do you see the most when people come in that get the transformation that they're looking for? What do those people have? What do those people do that sets them apart from the people that usually don't get the change that they're looking for?
Oh yeah, I think they're, you know, the things that set them apart is that they know their why. And because of that, they are willing to think outside of themselves, right? And do things that make them uncomfortable.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times as trainers, we make our clients do movements and things that they really don't want to do, but because they know their why, they do them, right? And then they listen better. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people that don't see results in the gym, they think they know everything. There's like the fitness industry is always changing. There's always more information. There's more knowledge. And if you're open-minded enough, and if you're focused enough, you can see you can see goals a lot faster. What I love the most is that when people actually achieve their goals, you see them actually, like you said, transform. They become more confident. They become more sure of themselves. They change their clothing. Like beforehand, they come into the gym, all they do is wearing big t-shirts,
right.
baggy basketball shorts, old and1 sneakers, like all those things, right? But as time goes on, they lose a little bit more weight. They put on a little bit more muscle. They get a few more compliments. They'll go out and start spending a little bit of money on some clothing. They go get a haircut for once. They start doing things that they never thought they deserved, right? So that's what I love about it.
Man. And I love that, man. Even being in the gym, and obviously, I see you training in the mornings, but I love to see the people like, I see you, bro. Like, I see you, like, even the young ladies, everyone, that transformation. There's nothing more beautiful to see a person like reaching their goals. And so for yourself, obviously, you wear a lot of hats. Your father, you real estate, and you work in the gym as well. Here, we're talking about systems. Systems are so important to success. What systems, what practices, principles do you have that help you stay locked in daily?
Oh yeah, I love this. So a couple of things, but I think the main thing is I believe in this thing called essentialism. So what I went to a conference a few years ago, and there's an author talking about it, and it just aligned with what I wanted. And essentially, what it's about is pick three things that you just really, really want to be good at, and then just make sure that 80% of your life really aligns with those three things. So for me, I want to be a great father. That's important to me. I want to be a great server of my community, whether that be in real estate, whether that be in personal training. I want to serve people. I want to serve people well, and I want to practice what I preach. I want to be a follow-through person. So those three things right there, if it doesn't align with that, I don't do it. And a lot of times too, with a schedule like myself, every evening, I map out my plan for the day. Now, I've been doing this for years, and I think in the past, it used to like destroy me. I used to have this checklist, and if I didn't achieve everything on that checklist, I could never be satisfied with that day. But if I did, achieve everything on that list, it did give me a little bit of a high. But now I have just really, really learned, it's like a growth stage for me. I have really learned that like when I don't finish everything on that list, it can wait till the next day.
That goes back to what you said in the beginning, the desire to be perfect. You mentioned that. So even now on this end, so we're evolving. We're in a healthy space because I believe the desire to be perfect has its place.
It does.
So do you still have that desire? And if so, how do you channel it for a positive instead of to your detriment?
Yeah, I still do a lot of the same thing. I still meal prep every day. I just don't weigh my food anymore. You know what I mean? Like, because that's just going to put me down, down a certain, path or whatever. I still work out every day. A workout for me is different now. It used to be all about, chest, back, buys, legs, whatever. Now it's like, am I moving today? Like, am I playing with my kid? Am I doing Pilates? I just want to do something active today. I still do my checklist every night. I still, listen to certain podcasts every day that drive me. The thing is that like, again, it can, I'm just learning that it's okay to not be perfect. But I still like strive to be the best version of myself. That's all.
I like it. I want to have just a real talk moment for the people, man. So there's a bunch of people currently right now, that are struggling with image like you once did. They're hiding behind an image. They're trying to be something they're not. They're being a chameleon. What would you say to that person that's in that phase of their life?
Learn to love yourself. Yeah, learn to love yourself. I don't think I love myself. And now I have learned to love myself and love the person that I've become and where I've come from, and be proud of that. I used to hide a lot of things, right? And now I'm proud of like my journey. So I think that's what it is. I think with people who do that, I like in a way don't love themselves in their journey and their path to get to where they've gotten to.
Yeah. So and what's this, because I'm a very practical guy, not loving yourself, that is, we see a lot of that, obviously social media shows and just people display them not loving themselves and chasing. What is the first step to someone can do to start loving yourself? What is something, if me, Jamie, right now, if I didn't, what is something I can leave here today and do to fall in love with myself?
Sure. Gain positive, like give yourself positive affirmation. I think about, I may not be great at everything, but I do know what I am great at. And I try to tell myself that, so, and what's really helped me out the most is that it's therapy. I think that's something that's super missing right now in
for sure.
in the community in general. I think people are afraid to face themselves and be challenged. And therapy taught me a lot, like the why behind like my actions and, and to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into it. Like, why did I do that? And why did I do that? And in that, I've learned that like, I just I wasn't proud of where I came from. I wasn't proud of where I came from because I didn't know how to be proud of where I came from. That's it.
Yeah, man. Powerful episode, bro. In my mind be going in so many directions when I send on these episodes. Because one thing about me, I love to hear people's story. So we think about your journey. You were here. So everything we talked about, the cool thing is you're here to tell it. You know what I mean? We're here to have this conversation through the failure, through the fall, through everything. You made it through, and you're able to smile, be able to talk about I went through it and I'm here, and you have a story to tell from it. And I think that's the beauty of platforms like this or having podcasts. So somebody can be able to say, hey, that happened, but I'm here now. The story isn't over. You still have the pen in your hand to be able to write your story. So in that facet, with knowing that you still had a pen, obviously with, the guidance of God, what's next for you, bro? What do you have next?
Sure. What's next for me is just, at some point, I want to be able to go into real estate full time. I can do it right now. I can do it right now. I think that I just love training so much, and I don't know how to like not do it. Because that's one of those things that I give myself affirmation for in the morning. But to go into real estate full time at some point, I'd love to get my broker's license and expand into that a lot more, and just continue to invest in my daughter, invest in like my future. And yeah, man, I think that's it. I really I'm loving real estate right now. It's a lot of work, but again, I get so much out of it, and just the way that industry is going, it hasn't really done me. I've learned so much. In it.
That's dope. To end, man, we're gonna do this. So I'm gonna say something, and I just want you to finish it as you finish the sentence. So I'm gonna start it off. So at the end of the day, I want to be remembered as.
At the end of the day, I want to be remembered as just a great man. So, yeah, great man.
Great man. I love it, man. Hey, I appreciate you, brother, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for vulnerability, sharing your story, man. I know it's gonna help many that watch this episode.
Man, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir, brother.
Thank you.
All right, man. So stop what you're doing. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Man, great episode. We always say this, man. We need to get more engagement on these episodes. So say something if you're struggling with something. If you're dealing with something, drop it in the comments, man. We would love to interact with you and see how we can partner together to be able to help you to God have transformation like Kendrick did here. One thing I have learned, anything in life is what they say, you want to go fast, you go alone, you want to go far, you go together.
Love that.
Doing things together. We're doing things with community. That's the way. Even like you shared, you joined that, I'm pretty sure, the AA group. Are you still a part of it?
Absolutely.
So like things like community. I mean, I'm pretty sure that part of your day is probably one of the most refreshing parts of your day to go there and be a part of that experience. So again, community and doing things together. So make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. You watch this podcast, you're part of the EL2A family now. And again, I appreciate you for being here. And one thing we are going to do as we end this episode, I always do it, I want you to look in that camera, right? You just shared your story. You were just vulnerable with everybody that's watching this episode. Again, I asked you, how do you want to be remembered? But I always say this, and obviously it's just a hypothetical. I don't want to put it out there, but if the world was ending, right, and this is the last thing people can hear from you, what would you say to the people?
Give it your all, you know, find your why, love yourself, believe in something greater than yourself, and just drive for that.
Yeah,
that's it.
I love it, man. Hey, EL2A Podcast, man. We'll see y'all next time.